Good evening and welcome to the Post Route, the show where we dive deep into conversations with Black quarterbacks, both past and present. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings. This show is proudly brought to you by Quarter Phi Back, the preeminent fraternity of Black quarterbacks and home of the prestigious BIP Memorial Trophy, the only award that honors both the top HBCU quarterback and the top Black high school quarterback from across the nation. Well, this past weekend, the football season officially started at both the high school level and the collegiate level. And man, there have already been some upsets and some close calls. So before I introduce our guest tonight, let me just share with you our top HBCU quarterbacks going into this past weekend on our national watch list. At number 10, Chris Zelius from Hampton University. At number 9, Jadon Adams from Savannah State. At number 8, Jace Wilson from Texas Southern. At number 7, Damon Stewart from Alabama State. At number 6, Kelvin Durham from Fort Valley. At number 5, Dalen Lee, Winston-Salem State. At number 3, Sedquan Smith of Florida Memorial. At number 3, Miles Crawley of Grambling. Number 2 is Isaiah Freeman of Lincoln of Pennsylvania. And at number 1, the guy that everybody's going to be watching in the SIAC this year, as they have been doing for the past 2 years, David Wright, now at Clark Atlanta University. So let me just give you a little info about my guest tonight, because he's special to me, because I watched him as a high schooler play football at my alma mater, Raines High School, and have watched him grow up through the ranks of both the collegiate and professional ranks, and all the way now where he's doing things in the workforce. Our guest played 2 years at Raines High School as a starter, finished his junior year with a 10-1 record, finished his overall career 18-5, led the Vikings to a Gateway Conference title and 2 district titles. He finished his career at Raines with 1,681 passing yards and 23 touchdowns. Ironically, he was on the first ever state championship basketball team for the Vikings, playing with the likes of Derek Alexander and Brian Dawkins. He took his talents to Clemson University in 1992, where he became a starter for the Tigers in 2 years and having a phenomenal season. He finished his career as a quarterback with Clemson with 2,169 yards and 8 touchdowns. But here's the fun thing. He switched. No, not to cornerback. No, not to wide receiver. He switched to the position of linebacker in his senior year and became a starter at linebacker and had a phenomenal season that year at Clemson. He went on to have a transition to the NFL, where he was drafted by the San Diego Chargers in the 1996 draft and played 5 years for the Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts combined. Folks, let me tell you, it is a great honor and privilege to bring one of my favorite quarterbacks from my high school, a guy who, man, when he was spinning it or running it, because I seen him truck some people, he could do it both ways. Welcome, my guest tonight, Patrick Sapp. Patrick, welcome to the Post Route.
Oh, man, appreciate it, brother. Listening to you talk about my history, man, it brought back a lot of memories, a lot of fun times. Thinking of, especially with the basketball and DA and all those guys. We were a football team playing basketball, and we was able to win.
Well, Patrick, people probably don't know it, but you and Derek and Alexander, we call you the Bruise Brothers in the front court, because you at one forward and Derek Alexander at the other forward. I mean, both you guys about 240, pounding on people, man, on that front court, man. And sometimes you guys just sandwich guys going up for rebounds and things like that. So, boy, you guys were real tough down there in the paint, man. And we're grateful and thankful that you and Brian and the rest of the guys on that team, man, and of course, the late coach James Humphreys was able to bring that home. And I was privileged enough to be bringing that game back to Jacksonville on the radio, play-by-play and color with a guy by the name of Steve Berry, man. And, man, I lit up that night that y'all not only won the semifinals, but when y'all won the big one, man, that was something special.
Yeah, it was, man, and a lot of memories. I tell you what, I remember you doing that time and you covering the games, and you bring up Coach Humphreys. A lot of us that played football and basketball had the privilege to be coached by him. We all give that guy a ton of credit for us making it to the NFL. I mean, you think
Okay.
about it, because Anthony Lott was on that team for a while, and
Yep.
DA and Dalk and all us played in the NFL. So,
Yep. Yep.
but
Yep.
he created a lot of the toughness and the resilience. Coach Hunt, man, the
Oh
mind
yeah.
games and
Oh yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
running and the conditioning. You can't eat any bad food items. All those things that.
A disciplinarian.
Yes.
You
And
want to play for him, you're gonna be very disciplined, or he's gonna chew you out, and I mean chew you out to the leather.
yeah, man, it carried with us. It really did.
Well, I can't move forward without at least giving a little shout out to the guy who, between the two of you, man, when you guys hooked up, it was just always something special on the football field, man. And there were times when you guys were playing that I was calling the games, and it would be situations, and I would turn to my color guy, the late Randy Allen, and say, "Hey, man, it sounds like Neely time." And before I knew it, man, you looking for your guy Tyrone Neely streaking for something to make a play or do something special. And I tell you, Patrick, my favorite game was when you guys played Lincoln of Tallahassee. To see you
Yes.
rumble for 80 yards untouched, man, I'm like, golly. And I'm like, after you got to the 50, I'm like, who wants to hit him now? I wouldn't want to try to bring him down. And then the last play of the game, man, was a pass from Jermaine Kahn, a halfback option, Jermaine Kahn to Tyrone Neely. Tyrone Neely. Hey, you know what? When you talk about these guys now making all these one-handed catch, Tyrone Neely made a one-handed catch going backwards into the end zone for the winning touchdown against Lincoln, man. That's one of my favorite all-time games, man. I'll never forget you guys for that.
Yeah, that was big. Kevin Carter was on that team. I don't know if you remember.
I remember Kevin Carter.
Kevin was on that team.
I remember.
And big day rushing, passing. They were a highly ranked team. So going down there to beat those guys were big. But you talk about Tyrone, man. I talk about Tyrone to this day. Me and Doc, because, having the privilege to play at Clemson Power 5 and in the NFL, man, he were better than a lot of guys that I played with. He could have easily went anywhere in the country and played. And unfortunately, grades and those types of things, held Tyrone back. But, man, he was better than a lot of us. So I appreciate you bringing him up, because that was one of the surest hand receivers I ever had. And he was going to win one-on-one battles, and he was going to catch the football.
Okay, well, for you to say that, playing with some of the caliber guys you played with at Clemson, man, that speaks a lot, because my oldest son, when I would take him to the games, when I said Tyrone Neely, talking about, yeah, Daddy, you used to be talking about Neely time. I'm like, yeah, because it was time for those two guys to show up. So the two of you made quite a duo, man. So yeah, for those of us who had a chance to see you guys play in high school, man, you made quite an impact. So Patrick, you left Raines High School, and everybody knew that you were going to be an outstanding college quarterback. You took your talents to Clemson. I know, me personally, I had a little apprehension because I know what had happened to Vince Robinson when he went to Clemson, and it didn't quite work out. So I was a little apprehensive, because I was like, man, I hope that what happened to Vince doesn't happen to Patrick. And it kind of, sort of, but not as much. But man, you got there, and you beat a good North Carolina team your freshman year with a 33-point win, and then you come back and win the Peach Bowl game that year and beat Kentucky. So you had a phenomenal freshman year, man. I mean, I'm sure they were like, that's what we paid for. That's what we got him for. I mean, he lived up to expectations.
Yeah, man, it was a weird time. And I'll say one of the couple of reasons I chose Clemson, I could have went all to the Florida schools, and I chose Clemson really, we, as this show, and we're talking about black quarterbacks, it really was a time, if you looked around the country, especially in the South, you didn't have a lot of schools that ever played a black quarterback or that was playing a brother, right? Clemson was one of those few schools that had a history. They first, Homer Jordan was first in '81 national championship quarterback at Clemson. Deshaun Cameron, when I was being recruited, was also a quarterback, black quarterback at Clemson. Richard Moncrief, and then it was my time. So as I evaluated universities to attend, that was one of my big reasons. Was, man, they had a proven history of playing brothers at quarterback. So I felt like I would get a chance there to go up and do it. And then the other thing that led me to Clemson was Brian Dawkins' situation. Me and him becoming really close and best friends during that time. Really didn't have options. And and when it came down to it, I asked him, did he want to go to Clemson? Because Clemson hadn't offered him. And he said, heck yeah. And so I asked Rick Stockstill, who was recruiting me at the time, if I come to Clemson, could Brian come with me? And he said it was a done deal. And so that's really those two of the reasons that led me to Clemson. And get in there. And I know I would have a chance to compete and maybe start as a freshman. And I did. I started probably about the fourth game of the season that year, going in the fourth game. And I ended up losing my job at the end of my sophomore year. We were in that pivotal time where Florida State was spread offense. At Clemson, we wanted to open it up because I was a passing quarterback, but we didn't have the receivers that could do it. We had run blocking type offensive line. So we tried to morph into this, wishbone option passing thing. It sputtered, didn't work. And you know how I go, man, at this level of football, somebody's going to be the fall guy and take the blame. Right. And so I fell on that sword at the end of my sophomore year. And then I won my job back.
Okay.
Right? And I started into my junior year. So I started the season as a starter. Then I ended up getting benched again for Nealon Green. And a lot of people don't know this. So you talked about earlier about moving positions. But I finished probably the last 4 games of the season. I played wide receiver.
Oh, wow.
And I played. Like I
played,
and I know that wasn't a true position, but I'm just one of those guys, man. I was not going to sit on the bench. I'm just listen, I can contribute to a team. So that was my mindset. And I asked Coach, could I go to receiver the rest of the year? And they let me go there, and then basketball season came. I played basketball that year at Clemson, and then I went and had a talk with Coach Tommy West, that I want to move the linebacker. And so I made a decision to move, and I asked, could I move? And that's kind of how that move came about.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you clearing that fact up because as I have grown over the many years, black quarterbacks have been asked to change positions, most prominently to either a cornerback or a wideout. So, the first thing I said was, now, why did they move Patrick to linebacker? I mean, I know at 6'4", about 230, I get it. Hey, man, because you were probably a phenomenon during the time you came along, man, because there were not that many quarterbacks who had that kind of size, and plus you had speed to go with it. I don't think people recognize how much speed you had, but when I saw you run against Lincoln in that 80-yarder, man, I was like, okay, he got a motor too. So it was just one of those things where everybody's scratching their head trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? Because, of course, the first thought is Clemson's coaching staff put Patrick in that position. But I'm glad you have cleared that up to let us know that, hey, no, Patrick went to them and made the decision that, hey, this is what he wanted to do. They respected that because it led to him getting in the league. Do you think had you stayed at quarterback, the results would have been the same?
As I look back now, I do. And I'll say why. But when I went to Coach West to ask to move the linebacker, I mean, it was I had to. It took me about an hour to convince the dude. Like he was just like, I mean, he was like, man, you're gonna play, and I'm like, coach, I'm a starter, man, and quite honest with you, man, Charlie Ward, which was one of my guys that I adored as a quarterback. To me, still one of the all-time best college quarterbacks ever, whatever era you want to call it, ever. And man, when he didn't get drafted, because he was a year ahead of me. He was coming out my junior, and he didn't get drafted. I said, hold on, man, this dude is cold, Heisman winner, and this dude don't get. So the league still wasn't there yet with brothers playing quarterback, and so that was a deterrence for me. And I really looked at our situation at Clemson. We had some senior linebackers graduating. We had some good guys behind them, but man, I believed in me, and I thought, hey, if I can go over there and take a job, and give myself a chance. And I was angry, quite frankly, going through what I went through those years and just taking it, man, I wanted to inflict some pain on some people and have fun, have fun doing it. And so we talked for an hour, and he finally said, do I trust him, as a coach? I said, yes. And he said, okay. He said, I'll let you move there the first day of spring practice, and I'll evaluate you. And at the end of practice, I'll tell you if you can stay a linebacker or you got to go back to quarterback. I said, okay, fine by me. And in the practice, he said, you start the linebacker. And man, I just worked at it, and fortunate enough, man, set daily goals, and it worked out for me.
I mean, but Patrick, they let you play wide receiver. Why do you ask him, could you play tight end? Since, okay, Coach, can I play tight end? I play receiver. You stepped all the way across the line and went to the other side. So now you're fueled by anger. So you want to inflict some pain on somebody. They don't know, man. You just don't know how angry I am. And that's why, man, that Sapp guy, man, I thought he was a quarterback. He over there hitting. He over there hitting folks in the air.
Hey, man, it was, dude. And you know what? If people have asked me that question, and I'm like, man, I played quarterback 3 years and probably threw to the tight end 5 times. I'm not moving the tight end and blocking the whole game. so that was not an appealing situation for me. And again, I wanted to be free, man. And I know you talked to plenty of quarterbacks, but it's such a cerebral position. It's such a position to where I played it my whole life that you have to play the game with a specific calmness. You can't get up. You can't get down. You got to stay even keel. And which I was used to that. Again, I played it my whole life, so I understood it. But it's just something in me that wanted to be free. I wanted to express passion and run around and headbutt guys and chest bump and all of that, right? Things I've never had a chance to do.
Oh my goodness. Inside this big guy, there's a linebacker waiting to be released, everybody. He wants to be released. And I'm like, okay. And as they say, they release the beast. And man,
it was fun though. Yes.
Well, that speaks a lot about you as a person, your character, from the standpoint that, you went to them as a young man and told them what you wanted to do. The coach gave you a fair evaluation, said, well, I'll give you a shot, see how it works out. If not, you're going to be, back and forth between first and second quarterback. Okay. But after he saw that, you had this linebacker mentality inside of you, man, it's like, okay, it wasn't a hard decision for him. He's like, oh man, this was a linebacker we didn't even know we had. I'm glad you waited till your senior year, man, and not your before then, because I think I'd have been like, what is going on? Why they got this guy playing linebacker? This guy's a quarterback. He's been playing quarterback since middle school. Everybody knew you as the quarterback. We couldn't wait till you got the reins. Like, man, Patrick Sapp coming to range. What, 6'4", 220? Yeah. We licking our chops, man. So, but I appreciate you being, honest and just forthcoming with that, man, because, when you spoke about Charlie Ward, the thing about Charlie Ward that I say about Charlie Ward and his situation was, I've never known any Heisman Trophy winner ever to not be drafted by the NFL. Right. Never. I don't care if he was going to play baseball, football, basketball, hopscotch, whatever he was going to play. I've never known a Heisman Trophy winner not to be drafted until Charlie Ward, but he was the greatest quarterback in the NBA.
Yeah, hey, I tell you what, you're right about that, man. And what's crazy is I believe he would have had as equal a success and more in the NFL as a quarterback, you know, right. Because he possessed everything that it takes. And one thing about quarterback, you see a lot of these great or good college quarterbacks that never make it in the league, right? They get drafted high and they don't never pan out. It's one of the toughest positions to evaluate because most of it, what you're trying to evaluate is the mental of a guy, right? Okay. How can he adjust to stress, pressure? You know, how can he deal with third down in the NFL, where a lot of times, you know, you don't know what's happening until it happens, right? And how fast can you make those decisions? That's hard to evaluate in the way that the college players play. But what he had that, right? He had total command of an offense. You know, he had great guys that he played with, no doubt, but he could make all the throws. He could put touch on the ball. He can throw it vertically. And most importantly, the guy was smart and he had great poise, man, and an athlete on top of that. So, you know, that was big for me to watch him not go through that process of being a high draft pick. And you asked earlier about, do I think I could have played in the league? I do. Okay. Because what my strengths were was exactly what the NFL was at that time, even more so than now. You know, and it was a vertical pocket passing type quarterback during the time, you know, in the mid 90s and early 90s. And that's what I was, a vertical passer type quarterback. But, you know, we make choices. You know, a lot of people ask, well, if you would have went to somewhere else, do you think you would have stayed at quarterback, or do you think you played quarterback in the National Football League? Probably so. You know, probably so. I went somewhere that really fit my style of play. Yes, but I think all things work out for the way that they're supposed to, man. And I've had a great journey, a great story, and, you know, perseverance and switching and making your own way and making a way when there's no way to do it. You know, I share that in coaching. I share it with my sons. And so I love being that type of example for people.
Well, Patrick, everything you said, man, is so eloquent and so on point, because each one of us has a destiny. We don't know what it is, and we just kind of go along on the path. And, you know, the person who knows what it is, he doesn't tell us. He just lets us go and follow what our path is and what our journey is. So, yeah, you could have gone somewhere else and things could have been different. However, the choice was made for you to do what you did, and that path was set. In today's time, when you look at this portal situation, and the portal is not for everybody. And some of these guys jump out and want to get in this portal and think they're going to go to greener pastures. And it's like, hey, man, you get in, you might not get out. And if you can't get out, you're stuck and your career is over. And then you're talking about, well, I should have played. Yeah, well, all of those things factor in. So other than Clemson, what would have been your second choice if Clemson had not made the offer? Where would you have gone had you not gone to Clemson?
No doubt, Florida State.
Okay.
It would have been Florida State.
Right behind Charlie, right?
Well, so here's the thing, though. Charlie was not a quarterback during that time. He was a backup quarterback.
Right.
But he hadn't played at all, you know, and they really wanted me. I really – now, that's the other school I felt like I would have had an opportunity. Right. But to my knowledge, and at that time, they hadn't played a black quarterback.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, I love Brad Scott. He was the guy that recruited me. We became really good and I didn't trust it 100%. And but I knew they wanted me. They really wanted me because Casey Weldon and Brad Johnson left the same year, so they had no, the two quarterbacks that was a starter and a backup both, went to the NFL. Okay. So it was kind of unproven, at that point. So yeah, it would have been me and Charlie battling it out. For sure.
Well, that would have been a great thing to see the two of you guys battling it out. And I know the two of y'all would have been, kind of like, going through it, but I don't think the fans or the coaches would have been too disappointed knowing, hey man, if one guy is performing well, the other guy, okay, yeah, but like they say, you're only one player away from being out the game. And yes. You come in, okay, Patrick, you're up because Charlie's hurt or Charlie's not having a good day, and I don't think anybody would have been disappointed, but it's one of those things where, hey man, if I get in, you're not getting your job back now. You know that, right?
Listen, at the end of the day, we're all about competition, and we're all about getting on that field. And we could be friends, and at Clemson, my backup quarterback, we were really good friends. Okay. But once we got on the field, we understood, hey, it's business now.
There you go. So Patrick, let me ask you this. So you got to Clemson. The first black quarterback at Clemson led them to a national championship, Homer Jordan. Outstanding guy, man. Again, I think a lot of times people see Michael Vick and think, well, there were nobody like a Michael Vick running and passing. But Homer Jordan could spin it and he could run it, and he led Clemson, man. That was a phenomenal year. Man. He had Perry Tuttle on that end, man, catching the ball. I don't recall who the running back was, but I remember Perry Tuttle because I met him when I lived in Atlanta, and Homer Jordan, man, his name just kind of was that folklore name, Homer Jordan. Okay, but I'm sure when you got to Clemson, Homer came in, maybe had a chat with you.
Yeah, we became really good friends, man. We did a lot of some theater work together, he and I got to know his wife that passed away and his sons. But I see him a lot still. But yeah, man, it's kind of a fraternity, and that's what I really appreciate what you're doing is that we identify each other, we see each other, man. We got to have some talk, right? We gonna have some words. And I remember the first time I met him because, of course, at the time, he was our only national championship ever in Clemson history. So you knew his name. And I met him and we talked. I remember I said to him, I said, man, I thought you was a lot bigger than this. I hear your name all over the place. He starts laughing. But he always encouraged me. He always stood behind me. And he was always just a voice because what a lot of the public don't understand is that as a quarterback, a lot of times you get a lot of blame, right? And then in all fairness, you get a lot of credit that you don't deserve to, So you take the good with the bad, but a lot of times, plays that don't go right, things that don't get executed, nobody knows the receiver ran the wrong route, right? Nobody knows that, hey, the play came in and you didn't get all the call. All these things that happen, but you can't go out in public and say, this happened, that happened. Coach said the wrong thing. The guard went the wrong way. You can't say all that. You just, you eat it and say, hey, I got to play better. I got to do better.
There you go.
And you leave it at that. And but home team, which I call him home team. That's Homer's nickname. I call him. So home team always encouraged me, man. Just hey, keep grinding, brother. Keep at it.
Okay, Patrick, hang tight, man. I'm gonna take a quick timeout, real quick, and come back, and we're gonna chop it up a little bit more. Our guest tonight on the post route is former quarterback Patrick Sapp, Clemson University, and we've been talking to him about his time at Clemson and before. We're gonna come back and finish our talk, but let me just tell you. I gave you the top 10 guys for the HBCUs and on our watch list going into last weekend. Let me give you the high school guys because these are the future guys that some of them will make it to the next level. Some of them may not. Some may go on to the pros. But because we are part of something that is very special in this fraternity of black quarterbacks, we love all of them, and we hope all of them will. So, top 10 high school quarterbacks for 2024 as preseason. At number 10, Tremel Jones, Mandarin High School, Jacksonville. Number 9, Husan Longstreet of Centennial High School out in Corona, California. At number 8, K.J. Lacey out of Saraland, Alabama. Number 7, Bryce Baker out of East Forsyth in Kernersville, North Carolina. At number 6, Jamarian Ficklin out of Muskogee, Oklahoma. Number 5 is Bryce Underwood from Belleville, Michigan. Number 4 is Cameron Keenan out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham, Alabama. Number 3 is Jalen Hewitt from West Carteret out of Morehead City, North Carolina. Number 2 is Al Lee from Reedsville in Reedsville, North Carolina. And at number 1, Andrew Atmore II from Dudley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina. So as you can see, there were 4 guys on our top 10 list and 3 of them in the top 3. So that just goes to show you that, man, they're playing some football in North Carolina also. Also, while we've got a moment, I want to let you know that if you are interested in getting a copy of my book, The Forgotten QBs, the little known history, information, and statistics about black quarterbacks who've played this game of American college football, go to our website at quarterfiback.com. Click on the book icon and send us your order, and we'll get it right out to you. Only $35, but let me tell you, you got to have this book in your library if you want to keep up with the history of many black quarterbacks that made their bones playing on the gridiron. And some of them you may know, some of them you don't know. From the major to the mid-major to the HBCUs, this compilation, it won't cover everybody because everybody's numbers were not at that level to get in the book. However, it's some statistics in there from black quarterbacks from 5,000 yards all the way to the great Steve McNair. So get you a copy of this book, The Forgotten QBs, from our website at Quarter5Back. And then finally, if you're looking for gear, hey, it's football season, everybody. Check out the Anthony Lawrence Collection. Go to their website at anthonylawrencecollection.com. See what they got on there and order it from them because they are working diligently to make sure that you are looking very special when you go to your home games or your away games. It doesn't matter. The Anthony Lawrence Collection at anthonylawrencecollection.com. If you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, stop by their office over there on Boulevard Drive and check them out. The Anthony Lawrence Collection. We're going to get back to my guest tonight. Former quarterback from Clemson University, a guy who, man, he made my heart jump a lot of times in high school, and then he went on to Clemson and had a phenomenal career. Patrick Sapp is my guest tonight. Patrick, we definitely talked about the quarterbacking part of your time at Clemson, but now I want to transition into that very challenging part. So you went from being a quarterback to a linebacker. Now you get drafted in the 2nd round by the San Diego Chargers. Was that a shock or surprise to you?
It was somewhat of a shock, but my agent at the time, Phil Williams, he told me like, man, you're going to be drafted in the 2nd round. And I'm like, man, ain't no way. Right. I'm thinking maybe 3rd, because I had a great senior season. I worked out well for teams. I knew San Diego really liked me because, I talked with Bobby Beathard a lot during that process. And in my workout, I remember I was working out, I think it was the Steelers and Kansas City and a couple other teams in San Diego. And like halfway through the workout, he came to me and said, man, stop looking so good. Like, you still my secret, man. I'm trying to draft me. I said, I remember saying to him, like, you draft me in the 1st round, I will stop right now. I'll take I won't talk to anybody else. He started laughing. But I knew they liked me a lot. But it's still, a story that in some ways you live in it, but it's hard to believe that literally, man, in one season that I could, reach up the board the way that I did. And it was some great linebackers. I mean, this was Ray Lewis and Zach Crockett and all us was in the same draft. But, I enjoyed the game. I studied it. And as far as the transition, really playing quarterback helped me to play linebacker because think about it like this. You see the game from this view as a quarterback,
Right.
and now you just flip it.
Right.
So it
Right.
was really looking at quarterback. You got to know fronts. You got to know coverages. You got to know weaknesses of coverages. You got to know leverages. You got to know run fronts, fits, all those things as a quarterback you have to know. Playing linebacker, it's the same way on defense. I got to understand my fits. I got to understand the coverages we're playing, who's my help, all those things. And so it was really just taking the game and flipping it. And I could understand formations and what offense was trying to gain if they was lined up in this and all those types of things. So the cerebral part helped me. I was big. I played linebacker at 250. And so physical part wasn't a bad thing. I would say I didn't have the natural instincts from not playing the position a long time, but quarterback helped me to make that that gap up, really.
Okay. Okay. Well, just when I think about it, and I'm glad you mentioned it, the physicality of you being a quarterback now, the physicality of you being a linebacker in the NFL, because again, as we know, when you get to the NFL, everything is bigger, stronger, faster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And now you got to deal with the physicality of linemen, 290, 300 pounds, and you got to deal with them from a physicality standpoint, or even some running backs who almost were pound for pound just as big as you. And
Eddie
that's another
George.
part. Who was that?
Eddie George, yes.
Eddie George, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Bam
I mean,
Morris.
exactly. And when you said Eddie George, it makes me think about Derrick Henry now. It's like you look at him on TV, he doesn't look that big, but man, they say you get up next to him, it's like that dude is pretty big.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But it was
what linebacker helped you when you got to the pros? Who helped you to make that transition and make it where you could participate and be a factor on the field?
Man, Junior Seau, we were really good friends. He took a liking to me when I got there. When you're drafted like that, you fly out the next day, the day after you're drafted and go do press and meet everybody. And he was there at the facility when I flew in that day, man. And from that moment, that dude just took me on his wing. He gave me his car when I first moved out there, because you have to get your stuff sent to you. And so I drove his Mercedes around, but we we lived close to each other, and he was my off-season workout buddy.
Okay.
And so, man, he really taught me how to practice, taught me the condition, how to work out weight-wise. And that dude played 1,000 miles per hour. So, and he was as one of the physical guys that I've ever seen. And so I wanted to be like that, man. And so I respected him, and he inspired me to really just step my game up and really learn as much as I can about preparation from him.
What kind of challenges would you say were challenging, where you had to overcome some things and at that position, or what game do you remember being a real challenge for you, where you really had to dig a little deeper in order to make that game work out for you and the team? Because I know challenges are, they're every week is a challenge, but some games, man, it's like no matter how you prepare, you can't prepare for that team in practice.
Yeah. So for me, it was not the hard work. It was really just competing at the highest level every day at everything you did.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest difference. That is the culture of NFL. And in college, you got some guys that go hard, but you still have youth, right, in the mentality. So you have some guys, this day they may come out and practice at 75%. This day they may come out 100. In the league, it is 100% every day, pass on, pass off, whatever you do. And so that had to become who I was, and it had to become a part of my culture, because I was starting behind a lot of guys with understanding the position. So having him to adjust and help me adjust was huge. but I would say the biggest game, man, was I got traded to Arizona. Even though this was my 4th year, it was playing Dallas the first time. And this was, when they, AFC, NFC, especially in that division, was like going from the MAC to playing an SEC school, right? Because Dallas ran the football. You had Larry Allen and Nate Newton and Emmett and Stepnoski and Eric Williams, and so they was physical, man. And I was playing outside backer starting that game, and I've never played against Dallas until that point in my career. And man, about the 3rd play of the game, they ran a counter trade, which they pulled Larry Allen. And I already knew they was gonna run it. You watch film, and I came down as hard as I could, man. That dude had me up on one leg, and thank God my safeties got there and linebackers, because they helped stood me up, and we made the tackle. But man, it was a long day that game, and we actually played them tough. They won at the end, but I remember saying, "Yeah, you got to bring your lunch playing Dallas." I'm telling you, you got to get rest that week.
So a lot of trash talking going on, Patrick, and because we don't hear some of that stuff because you guys are up close. So I know some trash talking going on, man, knowing sports like that, man. So yeah, Larry Allen came down that line and met you. I'm sure he had something to say to you. Like, okay,
the dude was a robot because he did not talk smack. Like, I'm talking trash and I'm trying to hype myself up, and he just go back to the huddle. I'm like, man, this dude is not human. Like, this is another. He didn't even react to anything. He just lined back up and come off that football the next play, man. And he's one of the best linemen I've ever played against, and I'm sure he's probably gonna go down in history as probably one of the best linemen to ever play this game.
Well, I've heard that about him. I heard that he was a very physical guy, very strong guy, man. He would just lift linemen or linebackers, man, just, lift them basically out their shoes almost when he engaged them in that combat of playing in that interior part of the game, man. And, again, unless someone talks to a guy like you or somebody, we see it, but we really can't experience just how physical things are down there in those games, man. And then when you hear somebody, the highlights of these, these mini documentaries, and they do, man, you hear the sound bites and you hear the grunting and the screaming and all that kind of stuff, man. It's like, man, and you hear the hits, it's like, oh my God. And that's just the film. It's like, man, in real time, yes, it's a little bit worse than that.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely physical, but you think about that, but it is a barbaric sport, so we prepare for that, and you really train to. My body is my armor, my body is my weapon. So that's what you put into it, and it's fun, man. It's physical. It's times where I've my vision was blurred, and I'm still in the game, and I'm because you don't want to come out because you're giving somebody else an opportunity behind you. So when you're on the field, you're trying to stay there. I've played plays, 3 or 4 plays where I'm seeing double vision and I'm seeing 4 people in front of me. And I'm like, please don't run this way this time. Please don't run this way. Like trying to get your eyes corrected. I mean, it's definitely a sport that you have to be a little crazy to play, but you ask any of us that are retired now, if you played 5 years or you played 17, we'll all do it again, man. It is nothing like the locker room. It's nothing like competing at that level. And I think every kid grows up saying, man, I want to play, be a professional basketball player, professional football player. Very, 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 very few ever get there. But when you get there, you respect it. You understand the nostalgia around it. I remember first time taking the field against Joe Montana. I'm like, being a quarterback, right? I'm playing against Joe Montana, Elway, Dan Marino. But as soon as they blew that whistle, I was trying to kill them now. Make no mistake about that. But, I was in awe of those guys because, I wanted to be those guys as a quarterback.
So Patrick, if you hit him, did you say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Elway. I'm sorry, Mr. Marino. I'm sorry.
No
I'm
way.
sorry, Mr. Montana.
Hey, if I said anything, my favorite line all night long, that was my favorite line. I'm gonna be here all night. So
Well, you talk about the physicality of the game. I don't think anyone could tell us more about the physicality of the game if you talking about your high school and college teammate and best friend, the one and only Brian Dawkins, because I've been asked about him. I said, man, when that guy was in high school, he was a headhunter. You better know where he is because he is coming to take your head off. And I knew we saw it in college a little bit, man, but when he got to the pros, oh my goodness. So his physicality improved quite a bit, but then we all know, like, yeah, that's on the field, but Brian Dawkins ain't like that in real life, man. He's a quiet, reserved guy, man. That's not him. That's just when he goes into Wolverine mode, yeah, he's like that. But after that, man, you probably hearing hardly anything from him. So
yeah, he was. A lot of people ask me too, man, how was Brian growing up? How was Brian in school? Because we played together at Highlands as well, and he was always the same.
okay.
I could say this: he was always an emotional person, player. If we lost, he's crying. He's gonna be the kid crying on the bus about a loss, and and he was highly competitive in everything he did. He was going to be first in running. He's going to be first in conditioning. It was just his makeup. So people ask me, were you surprised, man? This dude is as good as he is and Hall of Fame. And I'm like, yes and no. Yes, because this is somebody that we grew the game up together. But as I look back, I'm like, no, because he dominated every level. He was the hardest working guy at every level. And he was a guy that was going to compete, and you had to kill him to get him off the field. And so the NFL allows you to do that, and he flourished because now this is my job. This is what I do every day, all day. And so think about taking that energy and putting it into something all day, every day, like we build businesses or anything else. And that's the passion he had. And that's why he had the success that he's had, man. He's just a heck of a competitor, physical guy, and he loves the game of football.
Okay. So Patrick, let's talk a little bit briefly about the fact that after your time in the NFL, you ended up returning back to Clemson, South Carolina, and working for the university in major gifts and alumni engagement, which is a kind of a business entity. That's not something that a lot of guys go into. How was that for you to transition into something like that? Because I get you. You're an ambassador for the university and for the athletic program. Yeah, Patrick Sapp, we know the name, so on and so forth. And of course, they are looking at you bringing in people in because people want to associate with you. What was that like to work in that position and at that level at the university?
Man, it was a pleasure, man. I didn't, I wasn't redshirted, so I was drafted before I graduated. So I came back to graduate when I retired. They offered me about 3 or 4 positions at the university. I wasn't expecting to stay. Development major gifts. Selfishly, I took that job and wanted it because I thought I could build my own business portfolio by, working in development and working around wealthy people.
I got you.
And so, I thought I would do that for 2 years, and it turned into 14 years. So 14 years later, I was still in development. But I've always been intrigued by self-starters, business folks that, had an idea, created it, lived it, and made it successful. So a lot of people drawn to athletes. I was always drawn to that part of it. Like, man, tell me how you did this. Tell me how you do it. You're doing your podcast. Like, how did that come about? Like, I was always in that mindset of things. And so business was something I've always done. I had 2 clothing stores. I've been in business for myself, and so it was just kind of the right fit for me. And doing it for Clemson, a place I appreciated, was just a natural fit.
So now, if I'm not mistaken, you're now VP in a business and also CEO of a business. How are those working out for you?
Man, awesome. So Universal Therapeutic Services, we are a mental health agency. So we do therapy. We service a lot of kids and adults. That's a business we had about 5 years old now that has
Mm-hmm.
grown, and we serve a lot of our community, man. And we have a lot of athletes that we see. And so mental wellness is something that, in my mind, that we all can indulge in. It ain't just, someone say I'm crazy or I'm depressed. It's no different than, getting your car, getting a checkup, or you going to a doctor and getting a checkup or a physical. We the
Yeah,
mind
yeah.
works the same way. So, we that's one of the businesses that I'm doing, and that's something that has been successful and growing, and that's probably my most proudest business, man, and rewarding business I've been in. And then me and some other partners, we started a hotel chain, and they just kind of hired me to run it. Some
Okay.
developers here in Greenville, um, and that's been fun because it was able for me to take my business knowledge and take a business from paper to an actual business,
Okay.
into Score Hotels and Top Golf and Hyatt, our partners in that hotel business. So that's the things I've been working on the last 6 years, 7 years,
Okay. Okay.
and I enjoy it, man. It keeps me busy.
And finally, Patrick, man, I got to give you major kudos, man. 2023 winner, recipient of the Brian Dawkins Award, which is given to a former Tiger who has consistently demonstrated the qualities of leadership, community service, and other high qualities that are consistent with excellence since graduating from Clemson. I mean, man, you get an award, and wow. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's powerful.
Yeah, man. I went up to give my acceptance speech for that, and man, I was emotional because it was,
Hmm.
a guy nobody wanted. I was
Hmm.
largely responsible for him getting the chance to go to Clemson. He's done such great things with his life. Guy I knew and grew up with. Um, Clemson names a Lifetime Achievement Award after him, and I am a recipient of it. Uh, and
Right.
my 2 sons was there. My oldest is at Clemson now playing tight end, and
Okay.
he got an award during the banquet for the next year Impact Player of the Year. And I get this award, and my youngest is there to watch his big brother and his dad. Like it was, man, that was an emotional time for me because it just tied so much of my life together
Mm.
in that one moment. So it was one of the best awards I've received.
Well, you deserve it, my man. You deserve it.
I
I
appreciate it.
know that for them to give you an award named after your best friend, the former teammate, that is a reason to be emotional and rightfully so. So it's, it was one of those things, man, where you couldn't have scripted it. If someone has told you that all those things were going to happen for you from the time you left Rains High School to now, maybe you would have checked off a couple of things on the boxes, but not all the things that have been a part of your life. To have 2 fine sons. I'm sure they're fine sons because you're a fine guy. So many things have come Patrick Sapp's way, but like I said, we don't know what our destiny is, man. Nobody's telling us. The man upstairs ain't gonna give us a snapshot of, okay, Patrick, this is what's gonna happen. No, it just happens the way it happens, man. So again, I know that was quite an honor for you, man. So hey,
It was.
congratulations on that. I know, and I'm sure Brian was there the night that they gave it to you, right?
Yeah, man. He's definitely around, and as we talk about that, me and him, we have a foundation that we do a lot of work, and it's surrounded by mental health. So
Okay.
mental wellness, and we work a lot in the high schools with the cerebral wellness program. And so we still doing our work, man. We're out here still grinding. We're out here still trying to make an impact. And I'm gonna put you on the record for this. And I want
Okay.
you to help me with this.
Okay.
You know, we're in a point in our lives where, talk about Brian, myself, that we really want to start to make an impact back in Jacksonville.
Okay.
We've been gone a long time, so we need our allies. We need to understand what those needs are. We need to understand, the folks that are in the community that could help us to bring who we are, our talents, resources, and all those things to really impact our side of town. And I'm talking about the north side of Jacksonville. That's both of our passions. So I want you to help me, because I know you've always been a sharp brother since I was in high school. Always dressed the right way, carry yourself the right way. I know you know a lot of folks, man, and I know you have a heart for it. So I want you to join us in doing that, but help us to direct us and how we can get that done. So I know that's time for another conversation, but I wanted to throw that out to you since we were talking about that at the end, and something we're really trying to get done.
As my oldest son would say less. You don't have to say anymore. Say less. Guys that you have an affinity for, if they ask you for something, just like if you ask them for something, you're only looking for one answer, and that answer is okay. So yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But hey, Patrick, man, thank you so very much for joining me here on the Post Route tonight. Great conversation, man, and great opportunity to recapture some things. And we are very thankful for you. Continue your good work that you're doing with your businesses, with your sons, and continue to be the kind of young man and gentleman that you've been for so long. And we just got to tell you, man, hey, Patrick, we want to welcome you to the preeminent fraternity. Welcome to Quarter Five Back, man. You are now a lifetime member of our
I love
fine
it,
fraternity, and we look forward to you being a part.
man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the honor. And again, if I can continue to support you in any way with this, man, I'm here. So let me know.
Well, you tell those anybody who played quarterback at Clemson, we're looking for them. You tell home team and anybody else, Nealon, any of those guys, man, that hey, man, you got to get on my man's show because he wants to talk to you, just to talk about black quarterbacks, because that's what we do, man. So that it's just that simple. Get them on the show, and we'll be eternally grateful, man. But we do thank you so very much, man, and God bless you, and continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right. All right. That's been our guest tonight, Patrick Sapp, former quarterback at Clemson University, man, a fine guy. Go way back to his days at Rains High School here in Jacksonville, and just honored to have him on tonight because, man, he meant something to a lot of people back in the day, not only at Clemson, but definitely back here at Rains High School. So we're glad to have him on tonight. Well, that's going to do it for us until next Monday night here on the Post Route. Hey, the football season has started. We're going to be bringing you our up list and updated watch list on these high school guys and college guys, because as we grow, we're getting ready to make the presentation to the 2024 BIP Memorial Trophy, the only award that a black quarterback can win at an HBCU, and the only award a black quarterback at the high school level can win from Quarter Five Back and what we're doing. So please join us. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can check in with us for our membership, $4.40 is supporter, $44 is our teammate level. So whichever one you can do, subscribe to us, hit the red button, hit the button and subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Join us live every Monday night for more phenomenal conversations here on the Post Route. Well, I'm going to thank my crew for making another show possible. And we've added someone. I'm going to start off with my social media director, Mr. Kemal Lazir. We've now added Mr. Will Relaford, who's going to be our chief photographer. And again, always thanks to Ronleen Kennedy, our producer and director, for giving us all the help that they could. So until next Monday night, as we always say, go deep, go for the bomb. Take care, everybody.